I'm Amy, sex educator, sex and relationship coach, and co-owner of PurePleasureShop.com.
I'm April, VP of the cutting-edge sex toy company Hot Octopus, and I dedicate my life to the business of sex.
We are on a mission to teach you how to have hot sex, deep intimacy, and how to make your own rules for who you are as a sexual being.
Welcome to the Shameless Sex Revolution.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.
You are listening to a pleasure podcast. For more from our sex podcast collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Well, hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the Shameless Sex Podcast.
It's shameless. It's sex.
We're so
it's a
shameless.
Pod. It's a cast.
Ooh, I have an announcement, everyone. This intro is going to be really short. I have a couple announcements. It's going to be really short because this is essentially your ad-free episode for the month. We try to do one ad-free episode every month. So this one is going to have us giving you a little intro, introducing our guest, and sharing about another podcast that's part of our podcast family. And I had an announcement, too. We are going to start offering merch. So T-shirts and things and masks with some of our logos.
Some skirts.
And all of the proceeds will be donated to Black Lives Matter, to Black Lives Matter causes. So it should be available on our website soon. It's not quite available yet if you're listening to the day this is launched.
We're working on it.
Yeah. So we keep your eyes open and posted so that you can find out. And again, all of the donations, all the proceeds will be going to a Black Lives Matter cause. So that's exciting. You can even get a little mask of a little face mask thing that is a picture of us wearing face masks.
It's the quarantine edition.
Yeah, the quarantine edition photo
yes.
of Shameless Sex. Us as little cartoonies.
Us as little, we're like Disney princesses.
Yeah, we're so cute.
Yeah.
We're adorable. And let's see, what other announcement? It's Pride Month, y'all. It is
Happy
Pride Month. We've talked about this a little bit, maybe in the past episode or two. So this episode today is with Monique Gomez. It's on bisexuality, sexual fluidity, and she also talks about increasing the power of orgasms, not necessarily related to bisexuality, but she talks about all these different topics. And I want to say happy Pride, happy LGBTQ plus awareness month, support, celebrate. I know a lot of the Pride festivals are canceled this year for various reasons, not just COVID, also Black Lives Matter movement and things like that. And just want to share our love and support. At the end of the month, we have Buck Angel coming on our show.
I know, I'm so excited.
Yeah. If you don't know Buck Angel is a trans man. He's incredible. He's designed some sex toys.
Sex toys are really cool, too. There's nothing else like his sex toy line.
Yeah, he's very innovative, very brilliant work. And he's known as the Tranpa. Instead of Grandpa, Tranpa.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Again, happy LGBTQ plus. I'll throw in the A in there as well for asexual folks as well. Awareness Month, go and support. And we just went to a really awesome panel the XBiz put together. It's for folks who work in the sex toy adult industry. And it was about race in adult, which is really interesting to hear a lot of perspectives on. I don't know if you all have gone in sex shops before and seen some of the packages that are like very white and also usually very heteronormative. And also a lot of the things that are depicting people of color are very much fetishizing. I'm not going to name any brands, but just bringing some awareness to that was a really interesting panel.
I just had to answer. I just did an interview. And it was about who we think as Hot Octopus as a brand are the leaders in diversity and inclusion. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time. The leaders meaning what manufacturers.
Yeah.
And it took me, and even an overall insight to mainstream brands as well. And it took me a long time to think about the brands because a lot of people are doing the shifts now. And at the same time, there hasn't been a lot of brands that had stood out to me as being super inclusive. Yeah. I think I'm happy that people are taking all of this stuff to heart and making some shifts. It's really important, and we're guilty of it as well. We will definitely do our best to.
We're forever
just be more mindful.
Learning, educating, and doing what we can to not stay in our little box and to expand our minds. I remember when we opened up Pure Pleasure, the retail store, and we still have the website, which I should go through the website and check out what packaging we have on there. But when we were at the retail store, it's really important to not have packages that even just showing women being objectified and things like that. And like, I like a good objectification when I ask for it, but there's just an awareness there. And if listeners are passionate about that, the next time you go in an adult store, start to maybe just check that out and pay attention to what you're seeing.
When I had started working at Pure Pleasure, and I hadn't really ever been in a sex shop in my life, there weren't really many where I grew up. And I remember you saying that it was a goal of kind of the shop itself and of yours to not have packages with
bodies,
women or people spread eagle
open with the big
and I was like,
O
you're
face.
right, there are a lot of packages like that, and not everybody wants to see that. We're working at Hot Octopus to remove all of we have a lot of white folks in our packages, and it's not something that I think anyone did consciously. I think it just happens unconsciously, and we're also shifting that. So it's really, obviously, when you see it and you're after all of this that's happening in the world and you see it and it's right in front of you, we're like, damn it, how did we miss that? But you can admit your mistakes and fix them and know that it was not intentional, and hopefully more folks will do the same thing everywhere.
Admitting where we can do better and continuing to educate ourselves. So should you be someone passionate about that? Well, there's our little rant, and go check it out. Maybe that could be your homework. Go in a sex shop. Look at the packaging. I was
thinking about this the other day, and I wanted to ask you, now that we're on the air, I'll ask you.
Oh, shit. She's drilling me now.
No, not drilling you. Do you think, and I was wondering, because I've done these accents for a long time, and they're never... in my opinion, I have never meant them as a microaggression. And I was just watching something yesterday, and someone was doing an accent. I don't remember even what it was. And I was thinking to myself, is that a microaggression? Because even though you're not making fun of something or someone's how they speak, and is it still considered to be something of an offensive way to repeat something that you've heard in the accent that it was heard in?
I won't have the perfect answer on this. We talked about microaggressions a lot when I took the Hakomi training, and microaggressions would be like the little subtle ways that we say something. Maybe it's an accent or a movement or a comment that it really is.
When we used to say Indian style.
Yes.
That's right.
Things like that.
Someone actually wrote us a review on iTunes.
They're on there again, like, fuck you, talking about Indian style again. Just say these little things that lack awareness that are, I think, stereotyping. And
when people say, I got gypped, I'm like, no. That is very offensive, because it's talking about folks that were gypsies, and it's not really a good... So I like to educate people about that. Yeah. And sometimes but in relation to accents, I think I'm like, what is? So is that going to be something that I need to be aware of?
I won't have the perfect answer to that, and I think that there's certain folks that I think that have been oppressed, and that when there's stereotypes that are continuously portrayed against folks that, or about folks who have already been is historically oppressed, then it might be something to consider. Should you be on that path?
So I can still do my Minnesota accent.
You can totally. I think the Minnesotans are fine.
And my Canadian accent.
In Wisconsin.
And some of my Southern charm accents.
I know some Canadians might be like,
and
my
East Coast, sometimes I have good Maine and
I like your Irish
New York
one,
boroughs
though.
and Irish.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or Scottish?
I can do both. I can do all of them. I can do London. I can do Cockney London. Cockney.
I've heard
chimney sweeping.
That, yeah.
I can do
Pinky. Was it fucking Pinky Blinders?
Yeah. That's Tom Hardy, though. I remember when we were at the trade show in Germany, and you
met the guy who was from the neighborhood.
And I was like, I just heard him talking to someone else, and I went up to him and I said, Peaky fucking Blinders. I was like, you sound just like Tom Hardy. He's like, we're from the same neighborhood. I was like, oh my God.
He did not say it that way too. We're from the same. It sounds like Mr. Rogers.
We're from the same neighborhood. He didn't say it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. He sounded exactly like Tom Hardy, and he said they're from the same. It's even the same street, because each street, you can actually tell where people are from. In England, I learned this when I was there. Yeah. From their accent, you could actually tell like the block they are from. Which is awesome, because even in the boroughs of New York, you can actually tell the difference between folks that are from Queens to the Bronx to Brooklyn to Manhattan, which is really cool. We learned that specifically when we were at the Sex Expo last year in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's so cool because it feels so special and awesome to be able to identify and I don't know, I love that kind of knowledge.
Yeah. I think, and that I understand when there's like a sense of play in doing accents, and I think it would be a little extreme to say that it's not safe for anyone to do accents other than their own culture that they identify with. That would exclude like pretty much all stand-up comedy and all of Saturday Night Live and all of these things too. And again, if it's coming from a place of continued oppression, then
I started getting a weird British accent when I was in England a lot.
You started picking
not
it up?
Even on purpose. I was like, damn it.
Like, I've been here too long.
Yeah.
You were into it though. You were like,
oh, I loved it. And people would be like, where are you from? You have the most interesting accent. Wisconsin. Anyway.
Oh, that's cute. Wisconsin.
Scanny.
You just made me want some cheese. Oh, is that a microaggression? Shit.
By the way, there is there one last thing, and this is totally off topic. I just thought about it. Someone that listens to our podcast, I'm not obviously going to say her name, but she wrote me because she was married to or is married to a mutual friend that I've had for a long time, and I never had a chance to write her back, and I just remembered. And she found like a picture of me from when I used to be a festival kid.
Oh, and you have a dreadlock.
Probably. I wasn't in the photo. And I feel bad that I never responded to her. She's from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And if you're listening, thanks for reaching out. And I was mindful and it brought a smile to my face. And
I'd like to see this
I'm
photo.
terrible with responding. Just like Dr. C. I never responded to him.
Doctor C, I can't believe she didn't respond to you.
Amy's been actually on me about it, and I have it flagged.
He's trying to help.
In my emails. Yeah. And my emails... He's
offering free services.
My emails are literally like a sea of...
The abyss of emails.
It's a sea that we know no depths. Mm-hmm. We cannot track. I look at your emails because we share some emails. I'm like, wow, she's so organized.
Yeah, I don't have... like 80 hot octopus emails coming in a day.
I mean, I get more than that sometimes.
I have like 5 Uber Loop emails that come in.
Yeah. So time management not be my best thing right now, but I'm also going through a lot of personal changes. So
it's true.
Yeah. All right, let's get back. Enough about me already, Amy.
All right. We love you though, April. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is play another little trailer, a little teaser for you as we've been doing their little 30 to 45 second clips from our podcast family. From Bowdy Storytelling. She was on our podcast sometime last summer, yes, and I think the episode is called The Best Dating Advice You'll Ever Receive, but she's an erotic storyteller and organizes erotic storytelling events that were usually in person with like 300 people, but now they're online. So you can go check that out and check out our podcast. It's different from ours. It's still educational, and it's really vulnerable personal stories that involve about sexuality. So without further ado, we are going to play this trailer again from our podcast family, Pleasure Podcast. Ready, set, go.
Hi, this is sexual folklorist Dixie Delator from the Body Storytelling Podcast. I'm excited to answer the Pleasure Podcast question of the month, which is, what is my number one sex tip for quarantine? I'm sequestered all alone with my partner, Bent, and we're big fans of role play. Our go-to used to be Anna Nicole Smith and the Rich Old Man.
Sign this legal document, husband.
No, Anna Nicole, I know you only want to inherit all my money. But after more than 6 weeks of shelter in place, we're mixing it up these days. You like that, don't you, Carol Baskin?
No, Joe Exotic, don't cover me with that sardine oil.
Want to hear more true adventures of sex, kink, or gender? Check out the Body Storytelling Podcast. Thanks.
I just love Dixie.
She's amazing.
I've hung out with her maybe twice now, and I'd like to hang out with her a lot more. I love the tip about role play and her playfulness that she brings into. Again,
and her voice, yes. She does some voice.
I can't even say body the way she said Bowdy storytelling.
Wow, that's all right.
Everyone go check it out. The Bowdy, B-A-W. Wait, B-A-W-D.
Isn't it B-A?
Body, B-A-W.
I thought it was
B-A-W.
B-A-U-D-Y. Bowdy.
No, I'm going to go Google it right now. Body. B-A-W-D-Y. Bowdy storytelling.
Why do I think there was a U in there somewhere?
Because it sounds like that, but it's Bowdy story.
Body.
Yeah, Bowdy. Yeah, there you go. You did it.
Oh, I did it?
Yeah, that was right.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, you get 2 gold stars for you, Chip. Everyone go check out that podcast.
That's not easy.
I know. You're good at
Just
accents.
like Chris Ryan's tangentially speaking.
Tangentially.
Yeah. I still struggle with that. I'm like, that was a tangentially.
It sounds like you're speaking French.
Sounds like I drank too much wine, which I didn't.
Tangentially. All right, everyone, you ready for a bio? And then we're going to dive right into the podcast. No ads. Just learn,
Ad free.
education,
Ad
fun.
free.
Woo!
Ad free. Okay, so here we go. This is Monique Gomez, who is absolutely incredible. Monique Gomez is an intimacy and embodiment coach, educator, and TEDx speaker. She serves others to support clarifying their relationship with their intimate selves to live in deep satisfaction with their sexuality, relationships, body, mind, spirit, and heart. She speaks about the power of the pause and intuition as a tool for living authentically. Her passion is helping others heal sexual wounding, live consciously and embodied. To learn more, visit MoniqueGomez.com. That's MoniqueGomez.com. All right, let's get to it.
All right, everyone, it is interview time, conversation time. We try to make it a fun conversation. Sometimes it's an interview, but we already had some fun, playful banter for about 15 minutes. April, and I'm realizing, April, we came in hot. We were like, wah! And then Monique here was like just meeting us right away. We're like, okay, this is working out.
I liked it. I liked the energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Attunement is totally a real thing. I think, sometimes we can actively work to attune to each other in terms of where we're arriving, like energetically. I think this happens a lot in partnerships too, where people feel like they're not meeting each other and they're not attuning to each other. And, especially if there's like past resentments about like, you never meet me, then it's hard, but we don't have any stuff with you. So
we're brand new to each other. So we just jumped right in.
It's all sparkly. It's good. It's like the lust phase here. Oh, hey.
No, I'm feeling it.
Yeah. So we're here as usual over a video call. And we always start with the same question for all of our guests. And that is, if you can tell us how you got to where you are today, like what brought you here in this world of human sexuality?
Yeah. So my story, let's see, I think it began about 8 years ago. And I always say 8 years ago because that's when I decided to be sober, or I made that decision. I struggled with alcoholism for my late teens, most of my 20s. And, I had a lot of trauma, and I had a lot of sexual trauma growing up. I had a lot of just abuse and things like that. So, I found alcohol as a way to help with it, or numb it really. And so about 8 years ago, I came to this point where I almost drank myself to death. And I had this huge, choice to make. It felt like I either continue on this path, and I knew where that path was going to go, right? It was like familiar to me. I was a functioning alcoholic. I was doing things. People really didn't necessarily know that. I was, I had jobs and I had all the things. And then I decided, or it was going to be face my fear, take this other path that was terrifying to me, to actually look at things, to actually start showing up for myself and seeing myself really. So that's when I came into this whole new space. So I had gone to school for health education. So I was always in the health education world on some level. And then I went to massage school. So then I started learning about the body. And so all of that kind of happened. And then I had this moment where I had to choose what I was going to do. I decided to choose sobriety. And at the same time, I had what I like to call like a sexual and spiritual awakening. Like it felt, I was with a partner and he was very skilled, and we did a lot of like tantra, and we used sexual energy basically to heal a lot of what I had gone through. And so that kind of started my journey. And since then, I've been connecting both constantly. I've been into deep meditative, studied yoga, a lot of body work, a lot of energy work, really into that world, and also bringing it into the groundedness of like the body. and using the sexual energy to kind of connect the two, weaving both spirit and sex together. And so now I've been teaching about it and coaching, and I just felt so called. It's like I reached a point where I was like, oh, now I'm ready to share. Just kind of share what I've been learning, because so much of what I also had was religious guilt, and sex was a lot of a taboo growing up, as it is for most people, and going to massage school too. It's like we learn how to touch the body, yet we have to stay away, right? As you should professionally in certain areas. But I noticed that there was a lot of people that just are kind of like asleep in it. So now I'm kind of bringing it all together. So that's kind of how I got here. Short version.
It's interesting when you talk about the like using alcohol as medicine, right? And I know I'm guilty of that. I know, because it's the only available sort of medicine out there that's legal and accepted by our society, right? And
totally.
And it's readily available all the times, and I have to check. And it's amazing when I take a break from alcohol, and this podcast is not about this at all. It just came up when you were talking about it because it hits home with me. But when I take a break from alcohol, my sexual experience with my partner is so much more alive, I think, because I'm just more tapped in and not like totally numbed out. Like I can't feel much, but I know it's happening. And sometimes it doesn't go that direction, but it is something that that really came up for me when you were talking about that. So congratulations on being sober and in your sexual power. And that's commendable and great.
And that's also, I like that you use the word medicine, because it's like when things are in moderation and we're not using them as like our only coping mechanism to numb or to feel something, it can't, things can be medicine at times.
Absolutely.
And when they become the thing that's like the only thing we know that is our crutch to escape or to not feel, then it's not medicine anymore. And this could be with anything. People do this with sugar. People do this with so many different things, and we have our unique
junk
vices.
Food,
Yes.
Sex,
exercise.
Exercise can be that too.
I mean, I've been guilty of a lot of those things. Like I'm going to dive in and just get like beefed up
so I can feel good about myself.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm not mocking other, people who are where we're just relating, I think, to you and to folks that might be doing this, is that like we've been there, we might be there right now in various ways, and like totally understand.
Moderation, that's some key advice. Something that we haven't talked about a lot on the podcast, which I know it's an awesome topic, and bisexuality, of course, right? There's a lot of identificative is it identificative?
Identifying
better. Identifying.
I don't know.
I like identificative.
That's cool.
Our grammar police.
I make up words too. It's fine.
We're gonna get an email about that.
Yeah,
one.
we will. But there's so many, obviously, LGBTQ. There's a lot of folks that identify as different ways. And obviously I've always identified as being bisexual until I realized that more heteroflexible and pansexual was kind of what I was. It's like energy. And I would love to talk more about the misconceptions of bisexuality. Can you talk about what some of those are?
Yes. So, there's so many ways to identify now, right? And so one thing that I noticed with bisexuality, there's a ton of misconceptions. And one of them is like, that there's a choice involved, right? Like you can choose to be bisexual or whatever. And another one that comes up is, oh, this is just a phase for you, right? Yeah. That's a big one. Like, oh yeah, you're just exploring.
You'll grow out of it.
Yeah, it's fine. Or something like it's greedy, right? Like you're too greedy. I've heard that so many times because I too identify as bisexual. And so people will have made comments about, oh, you just can't choose or you want it all kind of thing. That's a huge misconception. Or bisexuals, they lean towards non-monogamy and tend to cheat, or they're attracted to everybody, or they want to fuck everybody. That's like another huge one. And there's one about bi women, are bi to capture attention of men, or like to use it as a alluring tool. or bi people are straight, or gay, depending on who they're dating. So it's like, actually, I'm bi either way, right? It doesn't matter who I'm dating. Or they're more into like having sex with a lot of people and they can't make up their mind, and or they're only bi because they're scared of saying that they're gay. Like that one, I think is really intense.
I've heard that one before. I'm like, really? What does it matter?
There's also one that I've heard too, though, that as well. Within that, I mean, this might be more so in the queer community with folks who identify more as maybe lesbian or gay, or or I know that some people use the Kinsey Scale, which is kind of like a numbered system. Where I forgot what side of it. I don't actually know the Kinsey Scale perfectly. Wednesday Martin always talks about it.
So the Kinsey Scale, like no one usually, it's rare to fall on one side or the other. Yeah, everyone is somewhere in the middle, which is the kind of like the bisexual status.
And you move. You also, I think, can move around. I believe too. And so a lot of folks think that bisexuality is kind of, like you said, a phase or this like bullshit thing that is temporary or a cop out, and that I've heard of folks who say that they're bisexual and they feel almost like invisible in their sexuality. And to me, like, I mean, and April I think agrees, we're both very much advocates of like, you get to choose your own labels. Your label can change every day. No one else gets to decide what that is for you, and that's that fluidity part that we'll talk more about. But yeah, I've heard a lot of these different pieces. And then one other one that I hear often is more so that women are just naturally more bisexual, and also like women who are very heterosexual and actually aren't feeling at all heteroflexible or bisexual. They're almost like not invisible, but like people like, that's not true for you, you know. So there's so many things like all women are kind of open to hooking up with women on the occasion, which is like
not true.
Yeah, who said that? And then I've also heard bisexual men feeling kind of invisible because of the homophobia and because of all these different things. So I think this is just really interesting to bring up.
That's that is a great point. The bisexual men, a lot of time, bisexual penis owners, let's say, right?
Yes.
I felt like over the course of my life, I've heard so many people say really like harsh things about that. Like they're gay. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why can't people experiment? And so I think it's shifting.
Or just not be gay and be bisexual.
Or just not have to put a label on it. They're open. That's the fluidity part, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The labels are let's stop the labels.
Or someone wants a label for themselves. So my mom, my whole life was, married to my dad, only been with men. We opened up a sex shop together after she had already been divorced from my dad. And since then I've been engaged to 2 different men. We opened up a sex shop together, and she's like, we live in Santa Cruz too. She's like, I think I'm going to try dating women. I was like, awesome, go for it, Jen. Go for it. And, but at first she didn't want to take labels. She was like, I'm not taking a label of queer or bisexual. Then she was like taking on a label, I believe, of queer, and didn't want to just be put, because queer is pretty umbrella. And then she, I think since and now is identifies as bisexual, but in this phase in life is only with women and still has attraction to men. But again, an example of she gets to fucking decide. And it can change moment to moment, day by day. No one gets to be like, well, a year ago you were only with men and you didn't say this, so you're not this now. And check yourself, humans, on us deciding what other people get to be and what they get to say about themselves. And so this brings me to this. Now we're talking about misconceptions. I'm curious about kind of like the power of sexual fluidity, not saying that it's above anything, right? If people say I'm super, heterosexual or homosexual, whatever they say, that's fine for them. But like, what is the power of sexual fluidity, and what do people get out of being sexually fluid?
Yeah. So, fluidity in gender and sexuality gives more of an acceptance for our different manifestations of our erotic selves to come through, right? So that's where I think the power really lies. And when we allow ourselves to be open and curious, we meet the world differently. And there's often more of an openness that can happen. So that's what's so great about sexual fluidity. And I think you're right with the labels, right? Like moving out of this label heavy world or sense that we've kind of been in, to more of being able to say, well, yeah, today I'm feeling this, tomorrow I'm feeling this. There's so many different, it's like the human condition. We move through it, we evolve. And so I think that's where the power it lies, is you get more of this seeing of self and being able to see all aspects of you. And so holding on to labels can be really heavy, if you're really, really holding on. So I always love to talk about what you guys just said. Like, today I could be this, tomorrow I could be this. And I've gone through my own evolution of, I was very much a heterosexual until I was queer, and then I was gay, and then I was like, oh, I'm actually bisexual. And so all of it has been really a whole exploration and evolution. And then it is what you feel comfortable with. What is it that you want to, if you want to at all, like identify as? You don't even have to have a label. But the power of fluidity really is just being able to have more aspects of yourself come through with a willingness and openness for that.
And I want to remind listeners too, when we're talking about bisexuality, we're talking about, an orientation, to the people that you want to be sexually intimate with. And it doesn't speak to behavior. So there still is this thing of like, you're a penis owner and you like to be fucked in the ass, then you must be gay, no matter who that person is fucking the ass. Do they have a strap on? Do they have a penis? Are they just using fingers? And so it isn't about the act that we're referring to. You get to decide if you want a label and what your label is going to be, and should that change based on the people that you're attracted to and what the social constructs around that. But again, you're the creator of what that can look like. Yeah,
and I love that, the creator, because I think that's what we're coming into now, right? You are the creator. You own what you want to create and manifest in the world. So yeah.
And how can people learn, like folks out there, how can they learn to be more sexually fluid?
Well, I think what that comes down to is really acceptance, right? Acceptance of yourself, acceptance of these desires that you might have. It's your own journey. And so you have to really, if you're willing to open that door a little bit, there can be a lot around sexuality that we can hold. And so, asking people in the community of their stories, doing that kind of research, just kind of starting to explore more of the LGBTQIA, all of the
endless letters that keep on.
Which I love.
It's like, we got a new letter. I'm like, awesome.
I do. Yeah.
I love that. Acceptance is so important.
And what I think you're speaking to isn't like, all right, I'm a straight person, I'm going to become bisexual. And like because there is, and I can speak from myself as someone, so, having a queer mama, and I'm like, God, I kind of wish I was like, just more queer and more bisexual. And I have done what I called, like, it's almost been like research. I'm like, I own a sex shop and I'm a sex educator. So like, I should be interested in playing with women. Was totally doing it more for the male gaze when I started to explore it. Didn't explore it with penetrative sex, but explored it with threesomes with another a penis owner and then another vulva owner. And there's 3 different vulva owning women that were friends that I explored, and I totally initiated it. And it was always with the same guy. And he's like, this is awesome. We were not partners. And to me, it just felt like, they're beautiful women. It felt like I was forcing something. It felt like I was, it felt the same as hooking up with a man I wasn't attracted to. And, but it was also, it was fun. I was like, at one point putting a butt plug in one of my girlfriend's asses for the very first time. Like, I took her anal virginity. And so since then, now she loves anal. And so there was this fun explorative phase. But what I learned from it was that, it couldn't be forced. I couldn't become something, even though I had access to all these things, I had this idea of what I wanted to be, that I couldn't become it. And I think it would be the same for anyone else, whether they want to become, all of a sudden I want to become heterosexual. It's like, there is a nature versus nurture. I believe in all of it, personally. I think that, the research does show that there's so much that is innate and there is things that are learned. But what I'm hearing from you is when you're talking about sexual fluidity and how we can learn to be more sexually fluid, it's almost like, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost more like tapping into who am I really in this moment versus who do I want to make myself be because someone said I should be that.
Absolutely. Or what label do I want to hold, right? And so I think that's what that's why the acceptance piece is so important, because it's looking at yourself and also accepting where you are, which is huge.
You can't pray the gay away?
No, Chip, I don't think so.
That's not a thing.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think any praying the gay away and like, the whole
tried a lot, and there's still a lot of gay people. So.
Yeah, they're just trying to send them off to these like rehabilitation centers
where they like beat the gay out of them. You're like, what?
It sounds terrible.
Oh,
exactly,
backwards.
it's terrifying.
And
I'm like, God bless the gays, please. I just like, oh my God, the gay community is what like got me through living in LA. I loved like being a part of it. And I was like, I felt like I was an imposter because I have never identified with being one way or the other. I never was like, I'm queer. I was like, I have acceptance, and anyone I meet, whether or not, I'm going to feed off their energy. So, and I think that goes in with your acceptance piece. It's like having an open mind, and me going to like gay bars, gay clubs. I love it. Like, I'm just like, fuck, I feel like I'm right at home.
And that brings me to one more question. We are going to switch over a little bit because you do a lot of work about something called the power of the pause or pause up level with edging. And so it's like, we're kind of taking a whole 180 here, but I just wanted to ask one last question, because I know we have, you said you were raised with a lot of, I think you said with some religious shame. What would be, you said acceptance. And so maybe that's just going to be what you say is for our listeners who have that, who feel that they are something, beyond or different or more expanded from how they've identified, and there's shame around that. Their family won't accept them. So there's the acceptance, but what it would be your tips for how they can find that? Like, I know listening to podcasts like this, we get emails all the time from people that this has changed their lives. We're like, oh, just hearing other perspectives. Do you have any other words of wisdom for those folks who feel kind of like stuck and limited and want to break through some of that shame?
Yeah, that one, it's a heavy, it can feel very heavy, right? And so I think definitely finding community, talking about it. I think the more we voice it and the more we use our voice to move this shame, so that could be in words with like conversations, that can be through writing, like really, and exposing yourself to these different stories, because then you don't feel so alone. Because I think that's what shame can also do, is you kind of feel like you're all by yourself and you don't know how to get out of it, and nobody's going to love you. This is wrong. This is bad. This is, all of that can come along with it. And so I say, find community, talk to people, talk about your fears, talk about the shame, speak to the shame, speak that you have the feelings of guilt maybe, or that, you weren't raised this way, or you have all these old beliefs that you're trying to break through. I think often when we're going through something really emotional, we tend to internalize, we don't speak about it, we kind of keep it in, and then it goes through our mind and it just kind of ruminates there. And so one thing, by finding community and then also being able to talk about it, can bring in this acceptance.
Yeah. I believe. I totally. For folks who feel like they don't have access to community, they live in some small town in Iowa. This is the power of the internet and the power. We have access now, especially this day and age. People are really utilizing that.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears. Although sexual fluidity is so important, and thank you for sharing all that wisdom and knowledge with us and our listeners. So you do a lot of speaking around, as Amy was talking about, the power of pause. And when Amy was telling me about that, I was like, you mean like pause,
dog
like
pause?
My animal pause? I'm like, yeah. He started laughing.
AWS. Yeah. We're dog people.
You're the second person who's told that. Who said that?
We're talking about dog therapy.
I know. No, I was just joking, but I wanted to say it because I thought that you would like that. So, So can you talk about the power of pause? It's like up level with edging. So obviously we'd also love to hear more about edging. And let's start with that.
Cool. Yeah. So the power of the pause, right? Pausing, taking a moment, basically, is what a pause is, right? It's like stopping, taking a moment. And what that does, it actually gets you into your body. So I use it as like huge embodiment practice too. It can shift energy so quickly. And one way that you can use it in sex is through edging. And so if you haven't heard of edging is about coming close to your orgasm, but not letting yourself go over the edge, right? So you like play with the edge of it. And so it can also explore your capacity for pleasure. So that's one of the really cool things about edging is you can really be in your body and see where your pleasure threshold is, where you want to expand. And it can also take the pressure off of having to orgasm, right? Because if you're like, oh, I'm going to play in this and I'm going to pause and I'm going to stop, I'm going to edge and then I'm going to come back. It takes off that like, oh my God, there's a goal. We have to get to an orgasm or whatever. So you can, use it in self-pleasure time, and it creates endurance and stamina. When you're in the act of sex with a partner, you can use it to reconnect to your partner energetically. And, you guys can both take a moment and see each other again. And then that can go deeper into a connection piece and love. And you can also use that moment or that pause to really check in with yourself. Like, what is it that I'm wanting? What is my desire right now? Which is powerful. It's potent, to ask yourself those things. So that's what the pause can do. And then, you can practice edging either, like I said, solo, with a partner. You can do, part of edging is playing with that edge, but then you can play with, I like to say, red light, yellow light, green light. So there's different ways you can do that. So like red light would be stopping completely. So you're in the act, you're getting close to orgasm, and then you can work with your partner. So one thing, if you are doing this with your partner, is communicate with your partner that you want to like practice edging and taking a pause, because then they're not just like, what are you doing? Or why are you stopping?
You're like,
what's
light?
wrong?
They're like, what does yellow light mean?
Yeah. Like
Simon
red
says,
light.
Simon says red light.
Yeah.
Green light. Yeah.
They're like,
Exactly.
I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Definitely
love
talk about it.
Yeah. And I think, so it's interesting that we're talking about this right now. This is going online a month later, but so it's Masturbation May right now. Mm-hmm. Our homework, so we do a challenge. Yeah, last year we did a 30-day challenge where we asked people to self-pleasure for 10 minutes a day, but mindfully, meaning they weren't distracting, they weren't trying to reach orgasm, we're not using porn and sex toys, unless some people need to use sex toys for that. But at any rate, we weren't shaming those things either. It was more like just come and become into with your body. Mm-hmm. This year, what we did is we're doing 3 different weeks, and they're different. The first week was similar, self-pleasure with your hands for 7 days, just as I said. This week is with sex toys, but it's still edging with sex toys, where you don't just get yourself off in 30 seconds. You have to self-pleasure to be a part of this challenge for 10 minutes a day, or no, just one session, I think, for 10 minutes without giving yourself the orgasm. People are like, huh? What are you talking about? Why would I do that? And so I hear what you're saying. There's this part that allows you to be more embodied and do a check-in with yourself to see what's really present. Another part is when you finally have the orgasm, it's often fucking powerful. Like, there is something to be said about that. Yeah, maybe you can speak on that a little bit.
Yeah. So one of the things that this does, right, as you edge in the body, is it keeps you in this heightened state of arousal, right? So the blood flow kind of remains in the pelvis, and then that just increases the pleasure. So when you actually get to orgasm, it's huge. It's super potent and powerful because you've been waiting, right? It's like this arousal state. And so you keep going there, and the blood's there, and it's like all the erectile tissues like ready to go.
Ready.
And then you finally release it all. So the power of the orgasm can be really heightened, which is really part of why you should
when I've done that before, actually this month I've been doing it, but that's when I can squirt, when I like orgasm, and then I'm like, I have to keep going. And that's when the whole female ejaculation can happen. So that's something that I only learned through, it wasn't edging, because I would orgasm, but then I'd have another one. And another one.
Mm-hmm. We also compare it to, like, we were talking about this before the call about how we're traveling less. And so, like, April, who lives with her partner, there was actually some good things about travel, because it made you, maybe desire them more, because you weren't getting access to them right away. And so this applies to so many things. Like, humans, we kind of do want what we can't get super easily. It becomes more desirable for our mind, bodies, and our spirits. And so with orgasm, you could think of it as not like I'm going to torture myself, unless you're into that. Some people like some torture, but also like I'm going to really postpone this intentionally, one, so I can be more embodied, and two, because when I finally I'm able to receive the thing, and hopefully coming more naturally, as opposed to you forcing this thing. It has to happen. I have to orgasm, which gets in so many people's way. But when you get it, then you're like, oh, wow, so much more sensation, so much more aliveness, so much more power is available. I've totally experienced that. Hard to do though, because we're also impatient, and
I was going to say it's delayed satisfaction. Like you have to really, or like that delayed gratification, right? We want things, we want to get there. And that orgasm can be really goal oriented, and this pulls that away from it. So it's cool. Yeah.
I love instant gratification as much as this person.
And practice makes perfectly imperfect, in the words of Brene Brown. Whereas like right now, if it feels hard to wait and to push back the the going over the edge, the more you practice it, the more we can learn patience, and we can learn how to. This is like why great sex is a meditation, which it seems like that's very kind of similar. That's kind of a lot of the premise of what you're teaching, is in that slowness and in that inner listening.
Absolutely. And then it gets you it drops you into your body, and then you get to, that your body is where you have all this sensation, right? So then it's like even more awareness. So then it even heightens that aspect. So yeah.
So you do a lot of work around intimacy and embodiment. You do coaching, you're an educator. If folks out there want to find you and work with you, can you just give all your plugs and handles? Where can we find you?
Yes.
555.
What's your address?
Yeah.
Where are you physically located?
Social security number is. You get a lot of
all the
stalkers.
things. Yeah. So easiest place to find me, of course, is MoniqueGomez.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. My Instagram handles @_Monique Gomez _. Those are the best places. And then you can always email me with questions at info@MoniqueGomez.com.
And you have a TEDx talk too. If people just Google that, or is it on your website?
Yeah, it's both. So I have it on my website. I did a TEDx talk about the power of the pause. And you can also Google it, Monique Gomez, Power of the Pause, and it will come up for the TEDx.
Awesome.
Love that.
Yeah.
This was really good. I enjoyed hanging out with you. I think the first 15 minutes, though, was super funny before we were recording with you. You just went with that. I was like, we're going to change it up today, Monique. We're going to do everything, the interview in song. And you have to sing all your answers.
She started singing.
Yeah.
You were like, perfect.
I was like, I love you. And then I'm like, nope, we're switching it to haikus now.
Like, what's a haiku? I forgot.
Exactly. I was ready.
You were really on it. So I just appreciate you and thank you for spending a little bit of your day with us. And I know you're not a wine drinker, Monique, but some people out there might be. And if you're out there, why not? Why not have a glass of Margins wine? Yeah, we didn't coin that one, but we should have, huh? Trademark. So if you would love to experience the beauty of Margins wine, as Amy and I have been doing now, because we're particular about the people that we talk about on the show, and you can go to marginswine.com and see why we love it so much. There are coupon codes for buying. Just check it out on our website. She does run out of wine quite often because it is made in small batches. It's really boutique, beautiful wine. So hopefully you can get on that mailing list and get the first round of the next go. All right, y'all. I absolutely love each and every one of you. I know Amy does. I can speak for her because she's right here. So we will see you next Tuesday. Ciao for now.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.